Welcome to Real Love, Real Stories TV and podcast. This is Kanu and I'm the host. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. And the guest chair today is Parul, and she's going to be talking about her love story. Enjoy. Welcome, Parul, to Real Love, Real Stories. I'm so excited to hear you share your love story. It sort of started when you and I we're on the stage. We shared the stage at the Arizona Storytellers Project. And I really absolutely loved hearing your love story. And I thought, you know what? My audience need to hear your love story. So welcome. And let's start by you introducing yourself.
Thank you so much, Kanu, for the lovely welcome. And it was such a pleasure meeting you at the Storytellers event and obviously knowing more about your story also. So thank you for sharing it. And, my name is Parul and I live here in Arizona. So we are not very far, kind of neighbors.
Right.
Yeah. And by profession, I'm an author and I help other writers, write, publish, rank their book as bestsellers on Amazon. And in the online space, I help authors with their author branding. So, but by education, I am an engineer with 2 master's degree in engineering. So I always tell people that is my education, but this is my passion, and I'm currently living my passion.
I love that. How many people can say they are living their passion, right? So that's super awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here and you're able to share your love story. Yeah, so, too bad your husband isn't here because I would have loved to have you guys share. Yes. But this is great because I want to, you tell it very well. So let's start by talking about how did your love story begin?
I wouldn't even call it a love story, honestly speaking, and you have heard about it. And I think our love story started only after our marriage, essentially, because we had an arranged marriage, and the marriage was arranged by our parents. Uh-huh. Obviously, we got to meet each other. We had the opportunity of talking with each other before getting married. We met, but that was only momentarily for a very short period of time, just for few, I would say 20 to 30 minutes. During that time,
for the first meeting, it was 20 to 30 minutes.
I think so. Yeah, not longer than that. I mean, so how it works in India is essentially your parents, if they find that the family is right, the girl or the boy come from a good background, mm-hmm. similar value system, then they contact the parents, and then if the parents, decide that yes, everything looks fine, then they move to the next step, which is essentially, the boy and the girl and their families will meet. So that's how we met essentially, but it was mostly in when we met, we were obviously with our families. We were given like some private time to talk with each other, but it was like 20-30 minutes. But during those 20-30 minutes, I would say something clicked.
Right.
It was not that our families were forcing us to get married, but we had all the say. But and we said yes. So, and that means that even in those 20-30 minutes, it was not love at first sight. It was not really, oh my God, I'm going gaga over this person or something. And I think
right.
we had the same feelings, and, there was no music playing in the background or anything. But I think, being mature adults, we thought that, okay, our value system is same. When my parents were essentially looking for matches for me, I knew the person that I'm going to marry going to get married to should be highly educated. He should have a good job. He should be,
Right. Yeah.
respectful to elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
And, all those things matched. And I thought, if all those things are matching and his family seemed to be really nice, everything else will follow. The love would follow. That was, I think, my ideology, or the ideology I grew up with.
I see. Okay. So take us back just a little bit. So how long had your parents, is it both your mom and dad were looking for a partner for you, or like how does that work? How did they decide, I guess based on the criteria that you shared, but how did is it a family they knew before?
No, they didn't know this family before. They saw this advertisement in the newspaper. They were looking for me. So essentially, I had finished my undergrad studies in engineering, and I was working. And, I was around 24, almost 25. I would say 24, actually. And so this is 15 years back. Things have changed now. Every year things move so fast in social media age.
Right.
So, but like 15 years back, 24 was considered a good age for a girl in my culture to get married. And anyway, why wait? Because I was just not doing pretty much anything, just working, right? And I knew, like, that was the thing. So they had been looking for, of course, they had been asking their friends, family members, and some common people, but essentially nothing was working out. And sometimes they would like the person, but I wouldn't like him. We never met, essentially, but just looking at the profiles,
Okay.
they might like the profile, and I would say, no, that doesn't look appropriate. Sometimes we would like the profile, but maybe the other prospective family might not like it. So nothing was working out. But then when my parents contacted his parents, they saw the advertisement in a matrimonial column in a newspaper, essentially. Because now we have these dating sites, and we have sites where you can actually put your profile. But way back then, online dating was still coming up in India. It was not popular. So newspaper was the trusted
I see. Okay.
essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
And the newspaper, because you get only like few words, you cannot like write a whole bio, right? Then you have to pay them because it's advertisement, essentially. So how the advertisement works is, boy, 25 or 28, whatever the age is, height 5'5", 5'6", whatever the height is, education, teetotaler, which means like, he doesn't drink or eat meat, or he's just, a very sane kind of a person, teetotaler. And then they will talk about the caste. So essentially, so we are Agrawal, right? Agrawal. So Agrawal belonging from, so-and-so place. So that is the advertisement. Just, 4 or 5 words, essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
Nothing like, okay, I love this, I love that. No, because it's only very limited space. I would say maybe 50 words or 50 characters, that long.
Yeah.
So anyway, so, my parents thought like everything matches. And they contacted the family, and they sent my bio data and picture and everything. And then their parents called my parents, and it was decided like, okay, they had a conversation, and they said, okay, let's meet for a coffee. So my parents went to meet his parents.
And you went there?
I was not there during the first meeting.
Okay.
Because, essentially, if they like the family, if they like the boy, then only we move to the next step.
Oh, I see. So this is the part where just the parents meet the other parents and then have that discussion, and then you will be pulled in later.
Right. I mean, my husband, Ankur, he was present during that first initial meeting.
Oh, okay.
But he was, more of spectator, I would say, rather than a participant.
Right.
But of course, my parents or my mom might have asked certain questions to him that she thought were appropriate to ask a person whom you're looking for, your daughter. So they and then, essentially at that point of time, we had no idea that we knew the families, or there was no common connection at this point. It
Right.
was only later during the process that we realized that my father and his dear uncle, they were classmates way back in college.
Oh, how cool is that?
My grandfather and another uncle of his who lives in Michigan, they were best of friends. They were colleagues, and they were working together in India.
What a small
But
world. Yeah.
his uncle moved to US like 40 years back, almost 50 years back. And then 50 years back, you can imagine there was no communication means or anything. So my grandfather and his uncle lost touch. But apparently my grandfather was the reason that his uncle came to US, and he had supported him. And so his uncle had huge regard for my grandfather.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
and this we came to know only later on in the stage. And then
Yeah.
obviously his uncle was very happy because he was able to rekindle his friendship and rekindle his relationship with my grandfather after we got married. And they lost touch. There was no way to find out this person where he was. And then we also found out that my aunt, like my father's sister, and their father, they used to kind of stay together in the same building, like some 20 years back or something.
Right.
So initially there was no relationship, but then later on so many relationships came up, it was unimaginable.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome. What a small world. And you didn't know any of this. I mean, they didn't know when they saw
They
the
didn't
ad.
know. We didn't know. And in fact, we didn't know until our engagement day. So what happened when his uncle came to the engagement, obviously he had to come to the engagement. He saw my father and he recognized my father. And he's like,
Oh,
hey,
okay.
you do remember we were together in school? And then my father was like, oh, of course, So, and then later on, when I got married and we spoke to the other uncle, and he asked me about my family and my background and stuff like that, then it came, then we found out that my grandfather and his uncle used to work together.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome. Okay. So, so we talked about your parents going to meet with his parents, and he was there and you went there. So then from there, after that meeting, you talked about engagement. Is that the next step from the first meeting, or tell me more about what happened between that first meeting and the engagement?
So, so my parents went to meet him and his parents, and then the next day, his parents and he came to see me.
Oh, so literally
essentially,
the next day.
It was literally the next day.
Okay.
Yes. So this was, and I remember the timeline also. So my parents met his parents for the first time on 6th February, and then we met on 7th February for the first time.
Okay.
That was in 2004.
Okay.
So yes, and then we met. So we met for some time in the afternoon, and we were meeting at my grandparents' house, my maternal grandparents' house. They used to live in Delhi, and the boy parents were also in Delhi. So we met there at their house, and of course, we didn't know them. We didn't know that the alliance would materialize or not. But still, because in India, whether we meet somebody for the first time or nth time, as I mentioned in my story also, we take good care of them. So we cooked, my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, all of us make sure that the guests were really comfortable. So they felt at home. And the biggest thing that actually what I found out was they had the same kind of tastes, essentially food tastes.
Oh, okay. So what your family cooked was good for
them. Yeah, very, very good for them. So they were really happy, happy tummies and happy faces. And during that time when we were having lunch and when we were meeting, me and my husband, at that time, the boy I was meeting,
Yeah.
were given certain time, like, to meet and talk, in essentially have alone time between each other.
So that was the first time that you had alone time with him.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, yeah, but this is still at the house where everyone is gathered.
Yeah, so it is a house. It's a big house because, my grandparents had a joint family. So, which means, like, not only they, but my uncles and aunts and cousins and all of them used to live in a big house under the same roof.
Right.
So there were a lot of rooms within the house. So we were sent to one separate room, essentially.
Okay. Okay. And this was like meeting your future husband, for the first time in person and actually sitting down and talking to him.
Exactly. But, of course, the alliance was not fixed at that point of time. It's just like, the two families are getting to know each other, and the husband, the boy and the girl are getting to know each other.
Oh, that's awesome. So I want to hear about how you felt when you were meeting with him for the first time. And I understand that it's not like you were private in a room, just the two of you, right? I mean, so tell me about how you were feeling like meeting your potential husband, on that day.
Essentially, I was not feeling anything, honestly speaking. It was just, okay, there is this boy, and, I have to kind of, I'm sort of, I wouldn't call myself extrovert, but if I need to talk, I need to talk, So,
okay.
There is this boy, and I have to just, ask him the right questions and sense his energy, and sense how, basically how cooperative is he.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right.
These are questions that you came up on your own, or is there like a set of questions that you have to ask?
No, I just, I didn't even come up with the list like ahead of time. It just came up in the casually in talking. And certain issues that most of the women in India have is, will you allow me to work after, after we get married, or if you allow me to study after we get married, depending upon, the situation, essentially. Some people are like, no, I just need a housewife. I cannot allow you to work or anything. Some people are more open. So, of course, I had an engineering background and I was working. So I had some dreams, and we are only two sisters, essentially. I do not have a brother. So another, criteria, or not criteria, another wish I had, like, whoever I get married to supports my parents, or lets me support my parents, be it emotionally or financially if need be.
Right.
So I didn't really ask those questions directly, of course, but I was just, kind of, talking about my work, and he's like, yeah, he also starting about his work. And then he's like, okay, maybe, because you will go on a dependent visa after you get married, it might not be possible to work, but you could go and get a master's degree in engineering, and maybe you could study further. There are a lot of options. So, just those few things that gave me the sense that, yes, he's open-minded.
Yeah. And I think it's good to give our listeners a context. You talked about a visa. He actually was living in the United States, right?
He was living in the United States. He had finished his master's. No, he had finished his PhD in from Georgia Tech, Atlanta, and then he was working. So he had been living in United States for almost 4 years before we met.
Oh, okay, cool. So he went back to look for his bride.
Yes.
And then, okay. So,
yes.
Okay, that's exciting. So you met for, how long did you meet that first day?
I would say like 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, the entire meeting with the family members and food and everything was probably 2 or 3 hours. But that specific time that we got was essentially 20 to 30 minutes, I would assume.
Just your alone time. Yeah. That's awesome. I would have been so nervous, and if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't even know what questions to ask. It's like, when you go on your first date, so to speak, it's kind of nerve wracking. So that's why I was asking how you felt, because I know how I feel when I'm going on a date. So
I think, because I was in a house, in a home rather, and in my house specifically, not in a house which was a stranger's house or a cafeteria. So I was at ease, essentially.
yeah, that made a difference for sure.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that meeting then where both families came together and you guys cooked, it sounds like you made some delicious food. Is that then when it was decided that, definitely this is something here?
Not necessarily, because then they came and they ate and they laughed and they left. So, but so it doesn't, like, of course we are, it doesn't, we need, it doesn't look nice asking at that moment, what are your thoughts, because my parents need some time with me and they need to decide, right? And their parents also need, so there were like a lot of people involved. It was, of course, I was at my maternal grandparents' house, and uncles and aunts were there, and his parents were there, his uncles and aunts were also there. So essentially, we need time to discuss things with our family, right? And
Yeah.
so they left, and we were going about our day, but essentially the overall general consensus of everybody was that family is really loving, the family seems really caring, and the boy seems very well mannered and cultured, because in India, when we are meeting the elderly people, we always touch their feet.
Oh, like touch, just touch?
Yeah, that is a way of getting blessings from the elderly people. So
Okay.
we do the namaste, but we also bow down and touch their feet,
Okay.
So and my husband, even though he was living in US and he was meeting this family for the first time, he touched the feet of all the elderly people. So he touched my grandparents' feet, my mom, my dad, because all the elderly people, it's considered good to get blessings from the elderlies, right?
Oh,
And
good. So it was a respectful thing for him to do.
exactly, but not all boys do it, right? I mean, especially if you're meeting strangers. So my family thought he was really cultured and he was very well mannered and respectful of the elderly people, not only because of this but also other so anyway, so, and I think uh, so they left, and we discussed among my parents asked me, how was your conversation, and I told them, I think everything looks good, nothing looks like really odd or anything, and I was like, let's see, wait and see how it goes. So then in the evening, their family members called us again and they asked if we would like to meet again.
Oh, yay. So this is like the.
Yeah, and then it was decided that okay, we would meet again, and then we met in a restaurant in the evening. I mean,
So
not yeah,
who's meeting in that one? Is it just you and him or the families again?
again the families.
Oh,
So
okay.
but it was not like a big family, so I think at that meeting, the second meeting, it was just my parents, maybe my uncle, and me, of course, and his parents, and maybe his uncle and he.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, so in that during that meeting, our parents decided that yes, it was, everything looks good and we are okay to go ahead with the next step, so which is essentially the engagement. So then because the boy was living in the US and he only gets very limited vacation, so the
Oh, yeah. So
engagement.
that's why the timeline was a little bit more accelerated because he was there for a short amount of time.
Right. And normally what people do, like, they decide on the, they make sure that, okay, this is the alliance, and then they go back to their life and they come back in 6 months and then they get married. But my parents and his parents were of the viewpoint, like, we should not drag a relationship. If something has been decided, it's better that, we tie the knot immediately. So then on 8th of February, so this meeting was going on 7th. So 8th of February, we did a small ceremony and we got engaged.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. So,
So wait,
because,
it started on the 6th, is that right?
yes.
So now this is 2 days later.
Yes.
You
yes.
guys are engaged.
Correct.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Okay.
But I didn't have because I had never thought of going to the US, or never planned of going to the US. So I didn't have a passport. I didn't have a visa. So I had to apply for a passport and a visa during that period also.
Oh, wow. So you were, okay. I'm not going to go ahead, but you go ahead. Tell the story. Because my head is already spinning, like there's a wedding coming up, there's passport applying, and there's so much going on. But go ahead.
So yeah, so then everything in India, we also have to find the auspicious date for things to work out really well. So then the priest told us that 17th would be a good day to get married.
Okay.
Okay, so we got married. I mean, like the official marriage was decided on the 17th of February. So this was 8, which was like maybe in 10 days,
right.
9 days essentially. But because I had no passport, I had to apply my passport. My parents had to arrange for the wedding. And the wedding was not small, it was big. I think we had almost 300 or 400 people attended our wedding or something. So it was not like a small ceremony. It was big. 3-4 events were there. So during that time, we did like an accelerated passport and stuff. And luckily, I got my passport within 2 days. But then visa is also another issue. And for that, we had to get our marriage registered. Because anybody can take pictures in a wedding dress and say that they are married,
right.
But until and unless it's official and stamped by the court, it's not considered an official marriage, especially for the purposes of visa. And I was going on a dependent visa, so I had to essentially produce this document in the immigration office. So then it was decided that time is too little. So I had already received my passport. So on 13th of February, we took a court date and we got officially married.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that was the day when I said, today is my anniversary, during the storytellers night.
Yes,
because that was like when we officially, got married in front of the judge, and my parents signed and he signed. So that was the day essentially we got married, like met on 7th and got married on 13th.
I see. Okay.
But then in between, after 13, we got some time to get my wedding outfits done, get my, his outfits done, the bridal outfits, preparation of the wedding and everything. And then I think we had one event on 16th, which is essentially, henna and music ceremony and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then on 17th, we had the actual wedding.
The actual wedding, okay.
Even within that short period of time, we had essentially 3 important functions.
Oh, wow. So after, during this whole time when you're planning and getting passports and visas and stuff, you are now allowed culturally, right, to then hang out with each other without other people?
Technically, we are allowed, but there was no time.
Oh, okay.
So, in fact, I was kind of always nervous to even call him, because then it started becoming real. So I was not really nervous during that first meeting, because nothing was, real. I was just meeting somebody, right?
Right.
And when it actually became real, I was kind of nervous. And anytime I would call him, because he didn't have a India number, so his father would pick up the phone, and I had no idea, how I should talk to somebody who's supposed to be my future-in-law,
right.
future father-in-law and stuff. So I was like, hello, I had this very timid kind of a voice all the time, and so yeah, I mean, so anyway, that happened, and we did get time to talk few times on phone essentially, but it was mainly if I needed some information regarding my passport, or if I needed some information, let's say I was shopping for luggage, right? So I had no idea what were the dimensions of the suitcase I should buy. So those kind of technical information, and it was nothing, nothing romantic and or anything like personal kind of talks essentially.
I see. Wow. So This is so amazing. I mean, it can be done. I know that people, when they're planning for weddings, it's usually like a year ahead of time. But
Yes.
think about how yours went from the day you met to the day you got married. It can be done. This was less than 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 10, I would say 8, so 8 to 17, so 9 days, I would say.
Wow. And when they say it takes a village, this is like true. It takes like the whole family to, on both sides to get together and say, we're really doing this. We found our respective, daughter and son, they're partners. So let's band together and get this wedding going. And it happened.
Exactly. It was mainly because of the involvement of everybody, essentially, As I mentioned, not only my family, but I come from a town, like a small town, and everybody knows everybody there, essentially. So everybody in my town also got involved in the preparation, and, his family is also very close knit. So there was equal distribution of work among everybody, and it didn't feel like we were stressed out or anything.
Yeah, when that's how it should be when you're getting married, right? So is he from the same town as you are?
Again, synchronicities. So he's not from the same town. I mean, he never grew up in that town. But my father-in-law went to the same engineering college that is in my
Gotcha.
town, and he also worked there for a very long time. And they spent a lot of time in that town, essentially.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow, this is exciting. So, okay. And then, so the wedding happened. So can you describe what an Indian wedding looks like?
Indian weddings are can be as lavish as you want them to be. And they are essentially 2 or 3 days of events. So,
Wow.
one is the engagement. The first ceremony, the very first ceremony, it's called... in Hindi, it's called roka, which essentially means that you have now tied the relationship. So it's not an engagement. It's essentially just a small ceremony where the boy and the girl and the families decide that, yes, the boy is ours, and the boy's family decide the girl's is ours. So essentially now you have, even if the marriage takes place later on, but now you are kind of bound together.
Oh, so is that the same as what they would do? Like I got a promise ring from the guy I was dating. I mean, our families were not involved, but I got a promise ring, and he was promising me that I am the one that he's getting serious with, and I am the one that he's going to
call that. Yes, you could call that. Yeah, promising. Yeah, that's a better word. So that is the very first, and then comes the engagement. And if, depending upon the time we have, sometimes we have a separate function for the engagement, and if not, we combine the engagement with the henna ceremony and the music ceremony. Like henna and music, they're real big parts of our culture. So it's more like, it's I would say a day's event.
So henna is the one where I've seen like this beautiful art in oh my God, how long does that take? It looks so beautiful when it's done, but it looks like it might take a long time.
Depending on how much you want. Normally brides have henna, like, sometimes still throughout their arm, or most of the time it's still elbow, but now these days they're also getting it to their shoulders and also on the feet. So, it looks pretty. So, yeah, it looks really pretty. So the henna, you have henna artists to apply. So applying the henna could take anywhere between 2 hours to 4 hours, depending upon, how much of the portion of the hand you are covering. But drying it kind of takes overnight. So the longer you keep henna and you don't take it off, the brighter it and the beautiful it looks.
Oh, I see. So what is the significance of henna when you're getting married?
I think there are a few things. Firstly, it is cooling, and it smells good. So it's also a way to bring down all the stress among the ladies.
Okay.
who are getting married because they're so stressed out. So if they keep smelling this henna, their stress is kind of reduced.
Oh, that's good.
And then there are also certain games hidden in the henna. So what people do is they write the husband's name somewhere in the henna design, and then there is this game where the husband has to find his name in the henna, and if he finds it, then it means that their love and relationship is going to last long.
Oh, okay.
Also it's like, the brighter the color, and these are all, I don't know how true it is, but somehow they became customs. The brighter the color, the stronger will be the love between the husband and the wife, and the girl and the mother-in-law.
Okay.
So there are certain, customs, and of course, the aesthetic appeal of it really looks good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I know is that it looks so beautiful, but I had no idea. I mean, I knew there was a significance to doing that. So thank you for telling me about that, because I always wondered. Yeah.
Thank you. And then, so that is one day. And then on the wedding day, it's almost like an entire day event, so to speak, because it starts in the morning, and in India, what they do is they apply turmeric and saffron and a lot of herbs on the bride's face and hands and stuff like that.
Okay.
And there are a couple of reasons. It's kind of considered a blessing, but at the same time, if you apply turmeric on the face, your face glows.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of a facial, that you're doing. So so the morning is spent in doing all that turmeric bath and milk bath and different kind of ingredient bath to the bride.
Right.
And then we have certain prayers and stuff like that. And then the main event starts, which is mostly, depending upon your culture, it could be in the afternoon or it could be in the evening. People prefer evenings because they can decorate the reception hall with lights and stuff, and it looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts with the reception. The bride and the bridegroom are exchanging garlands, essentially.
Okay.
And then all the people who come for the wedding, they get a chance to take a picture with the bride and the bridegroom.
Oh my God, you get tired of smiling with like every single guest.
Oh my God, the jawline starts shaking, Kanu. It's so difficult. And the
400 people at your wedding.
400 is still less, I mean, that's like a limited number. My brother, my cousin, he had 4,000 people for his wedding, so you can imagine. And then sometimes you also so if somebody elderly is coming from my family, then we have to touch their feet, and if somebody is elderly is coming from his family, he has to touch the feet. And we are wearing like this 50-pound heavy dress and bowing down again and again. So it's
oh my gosh,
on the back too.
Yeah, well, it shows commitment that you are truly committed to be in this, for sure.
Yes. So that goes on, and then we go and have dinner, and then after dinner starts I'm not sure if you have heard, but it's like the 7 rounds. The official marriage ceremony starts after all this. So most of the guests leave by that time, and it's mostly the family members who are sitting for this ceremony, which is more religious and spiritual, in presence of a priest. We have some fire sacrifices, and so essentially it's official. And this ceremony could take, depending upon the priest, it could take anywhere from 2 hours to 4 hours.
Oh, wow. So this is done in the evening when all the guests have left.
Most of the time, again, there is this auspicious time to do that ceremony. If you don't do it by 11 p.m., then the next auspicious time is like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m.,
Oh, wow, yeah.
Pretty much like up all night. You started your day at 6 a.m. for all that, and you do not sleep until the next day.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
And then finally we have those games once the ceremony is done, as I was telling you, finding the name and stuff, we have certain games that we play, and it's essentially to break the ice between the two families, and break the ice between the boy and the girl. And then we have something called as the parting away, where the essentially now the lady, because the girl of the family, is parting away and going away to her husband's house.
Oh, okay. So that happens. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and that is kind of emotional, because now girls have started moving out, but most of the time it's essentially girls used to stay with their parents till they get married, right?
Right.
So that is essentially a very emotional time, and everybody cries. I didn't cry because anyway I was staying away from my parents for the last 5 years as I was studying and working.
Oh, okay.
People were like, hey, you didn't cry, you didn't cry. I'm like, why should I?
Yeah, like I was already used to be out of the house and
Yeah, I mean, and I think, kind of when you know that this person is right, there is a sense of confidence that you have
and a sense of peace that you feel like this is the right thing for sure.
Exactly. So that happened, and then I think at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning I kind of left and went with him, and they were staying in a hotel, so the night was spent in the hotel. And then once you go, there are certain more ceremonies and certain games and stuff that happen in the groom's house, essentially.
I see. Okay.
So it's essentially now this late girl has come to your house, and in Indian culture, we consider bride as Lakshmi, which means the goddess of wealth, essentially. So we need to essentially treat her like a goddess. So now we are welcoming her, and we are trying to make sure that things are taken care of under the presence of a god. So again, there are a few ceremonies that happen during that time, after which essentially the marriage ceremonies are considered done. There are few more that happen after 2 or 3 days, but they are not as elaborate as the
that one. Okay.
marriage ceremonies. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. So you're now in the hotel room with your husband, and I'm sure like the time for you to leave India to come to the US is like pretty close. And so how long did you guys stay together at the hotel before you had to start your new life in the US?
Yeah, I mean, we were in the hotel for a few days, like 1 or 2 days. And then there is this another ceremony where once the bride comes to the groom's house, husband's house, after 2 days, they go back to their parents' house.
I see.
Okay, so after 1 day or 2 day, I went back to my parents' house, and essentially this is supposed to be like a day's event. But because I knew I would be going back to the US, so I was with my parents till I left for the US. And I was also packing, and I was also buying stuff. So I was with them for essentially a longer period of time, if I remember correctly. And then essentially our wedding took place on 17th, and after that we applied for the visa, because you can apply for the visa only after you have, of course, the official wedding was there. So we had this official document, but we also need to present the pictures and everything, right? So, and maybe some witnesses that they saw, they were present in the wedding. So then we had our visa interview. And luckily, we were just waiting for the visa to come to us within that period. And then I actually remember I flew to United States on 28th of February. So I met him for the first time on 8th, and then we flew on 28th of February to the US.
To start your new life. And you had no idea that you're going to end up in the US. Like when you started the month of February, it was just like normal. And you didn't know you're going to meet your future husband, and you didn't even know you're going to end up in the US in the same month.
I had no idea. Everything went so fast that I think the realization only came when I landed in US that, hey, now it's a new country and a new life. Right.
So I just love your story. Honestly, I love the how fast paced it was, and how just everything just sort of happened. And I love the question you answered when you were giving your speech at the Arizona Storytellers Off, people always ask you, are you happy in this marriage? Where, for some my culture, they do arranged marriages as well. And it's still going on to this day, even though it's not common, but it still happens. So I understand that from that perspective. But for those listeners who do not know anything about arranged marriages or anything like that, are you happy in your marriage? This is how many years later?
15.
So 15 years later, are you happy?
It's been 15 years. Somebody once told me if you cross that 6-year mark, then you should consider yourself safe.
Right.
So I'm assuming that we are safe. But yeah, I think it works both ways. It's not just taking from this person. He has been very supportive, he has been understanding for sure, but at the same time, I have been very understanding also, and we give each other space. We let each other be us, be our unique selves.
Right.
And he has different philosophies when it comes to spirituality and religion. I have different philosophies, we don't force each other to follow our philosophies, and even being together, giving each other that space and that understanding. And I think, again, family has been such an important part of our lives right from day one. So
right.
showing that respect till date to not only his parents, but I show respect to his parents, and of course now they're my parents, and vice versa. So all that, I don't think like there is a moment when you see this person and oh my God, you fell head over heels in love with that person. For me, love is in all these small things that we do for each other. It's not like saying I love you every day or every moment, but it's like, hey, when I am tired, are you able to take care of my daughter and change the diapers?
Right. Yeah.
If I don't feel like cooking, can you take care of the cooking? And I come from an engineering background. I did 2 master's degrees after coming here from Arizona State University. I worked for some time, but then that was not my calling. I left it. I switched to holistic healing. Now I'm mostly helping authors write and publish. So, even allowing me, or understanding my passion and helping me live my passion, because he always says that, okay, at least one person in the family, I'm the breadwinner, and I'm okay with it, because I don't think if I can do anything else, because that's how I think PhD people are trained, that because you're a PhD, you are probably just good in this. And like, but at least you can live your passion. So, understanding that I have a business, I have certain different
right.
responsibilities to my business. So all these small things, and making sure that the clothes are kept properly and the towel is not lying down, on the floor every time after you come out after taking a bath. Those small things matter more to me on a day-to-day life, rather than giving me roses. In fact, 2 days back was my birthday, and I'm all about giving surprises, and he's not. And he's like, okay, happy birthday, and we went out for dinner at night, and that was about it. He's not the kind of person who'll give you roses and gifts and stuff like that. And
right.
if I ask him, you didn't buy a gift for me or something, he's like, oh, I'm all yours, my credit card is all yours. Bank, I take care of the finances of the house. He's like, I don't even know how much money I have in my bank account. So, you are the queen. You can do whatever you want.
Can do whatever you want. I love it. And happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you so much. So I think that is what has helped us have a strong relationship till date.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. It's not all about, just the words, right? It's about you look at all the aspects of your relationship. If those needs are being met, then you know what? It's great. Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, I had to ask that question because I loved how you addressed it at the storytelling. Like people often ask us, "Are you happy?" So yeah, I thought my listeners would want to
Thank
know
you.
that too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So what's next for you guys? First of all, do you guys have kids?
Yeah, we do. We have two children. So I have a son, he's 8, and I have a daughter, she's 18 months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So what's, what other than these things that you talked about, where, he helps you, he does, you sort of support each other in that way. Thinking about the listener who may be looking like myself, single, what are some tips or advice would you give to people like me who, who are looking for love?
I think love just happens essentially. If you're maybe looking for love, I'm not sure if it happens, but you just have to believe that there is somebody meant for you and that right person will come to you at the right time.
I love that. Yeah, I do.
As with everything else, just have to have that strong faith that God has made. I mean, there is this saying in India that when God makes us, he divides us into two souls and sends us to do different places, and then um, the universe conspires, and then the two souls meet at the right time, at the right place. And you just have to believe in the mysteries of the universe, essentially, to find your right partner.
I just am so appreciative that you took time to chat with me, to share your story. And I'm just so grateful. Are there anything else that you want to add on to?
No, thank you so much for the time. And you were saying, one tip that I could give to people. I think the biggest tip is that when you meet that right person, understanding is really important. And I have learned one thing is I might, have expectations which might be unrealistic, and he might have expectations, and he would think, she's not understanding me, and I would think he is not understanding me. But you have to have the right kind of expectations, and you also need to communicate those expectations, because don't think even if that person is your partner, he's not a clairvoyant and he could listen to your I mean, we start assuming, oh, he's not understanding me, or why is he not responding, or why he's not, I'm tired, and but can't he see? I mean, sometimes you also cannot understand the other person. So yes, they are yours, yes, they are a part of you, but they are still an individual. So communication is essentially very important, and in any relationship, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, you'll be doing mind games of like, why is he not responding? Boy, he doesn't know what you're thinking.
Yes. And we assume he should understand everything, especially being a woman. But I mean, he cannot. And why should he?
Right. He's not a mind reader.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that tip. So again, I want to just extend my special thank you for taking time to chat with me and sharing your love story. Like I said, I cannot wait for my audience to hear it. So
no, and thank you. It has been such a pleasure talking to you, and you're such a beautiful, vibrant person. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, Kanu.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to go to iTunes. You can subscribe, rate, and write a review. And also, you can always find more information about any of the episodes on my website, www.realloverealstories.com. And remember to follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and it's all under Real Love, Real Stories. Till next time.